you tomorrow, Major.
Yes, good night.
Good night. Good night.
Good night, sir.
Good night. It happened about here. The body was found lying on the shore below Glenny Castle. We picked on you because you know the Glenny family. Your job is to find out what Matthews knew before he died. You understand?
Yes, sir.
This is our agent there. He'll give you any help you need. We have another man in the district, but you'd better concentrate on McTavish in the meantime. He keeps the Glenny Arms, a little pub in the village. You'll find him a pretty sound man, used to be a sergeant in a Highland regiment. Contact him as soon as you get there.
Very good, sir.
Well, goodbye, Neil. And take care of yourself. There's something very fishy going on up there. Good luck.
Thank you, sir. The Glenny Arms.
That'll be 7pence, please, sir.
Thank you. Can you tell me where I can find the landlord?
Mr. McTavish. He's in that room over there, just north.
Thanks.
Come in.
Mr. McTavish?
Aye, that's me. Come right in. War Office. How do you do, sir?
How do you do? I've been sent up here on this Matthews affair. They told me to contact you.
I've been expecting someone. Won't you sit down, Captain?
Oh, thanks. Don't let it get cold.
No, thank you.
Can you tell me what you know about it?
Well, we've got another mystery in our hands now. Captain Fairfax has disappeared. He took over from Matthews. Matthews was in charge of the counter espionage department here. But he apparently knew too much.
Any ideas about it? Any clues?
Well, in my opinion, the whole thing's tied up with Glenny Castle. How or why, I don't know.
Tell me, is Nigel Glenny still there?
Aye. Why, do you know him?
Yes. We were in the mess together for a few months a year or two ago. That's why they sent me up here. If I can contact him, I've got an entree to the castle.
Aye. That's good. For every way you turn, you come across Glenny Castle, either itself or its inhabitants, real or unreal.
Unreal?
Aye, unreal. It's said that the castle is haunted by the ghost of a former Lord Glenny who was done to death by enemies. It's called the Phantom of Glenny Castle.
But surely you don't believe in these things?
Oh, I'm not saying I do. And I'm not saying I don't. But there are many folks hereabout that do believe in the Phantom. And there's many a door locked at night, and many a body won't venture out.
Especially since the death of Major Matthews. It was from Glenny Castle he was coming when he was killed.
Oh, he didn't die by accident. A girl, Bridie Anderson, passed him on the road, and she swears that she saw a figure in a black hood push the Major over a crag. It was at Glenny found him the next morning. It was at Glenny Castle that Captain Fairfax was last seen, and then never seen again. Now, they're a queer lot, the Glennys. To understand the story, I must take you back to 1939.
The summer lasted long that year, if you remember. And up at Glenny Castle, they were still taking their tea on the terrace, even though it was well into September. The Marquis of Glenny had recently died, leaving his widow to mourn him in the care of the son of his first marriage, Michael, who became the Laird of Glenny. There was no love lost between the two, as Lady Glenny was bitterly jealous of Michael's position, which she had coveted for her son, Nigel. On that afternoon, Jean, the daughter of the Reverend Arthur Hamilton, the minister, had been asked to tea. Suddenly, Nigel, Lady Glenny's son, arrived. He'd volunteered for the army as a private and had come home to show off his new plumes. For a moment, nobody spoke. Then Nigel broke the spell, walked to the table and sat down next to Jean. It was quite obvious that Michael did not relish a soldier for a brother and became sullen when Nigel began to chip him about his heavy clothes.
And when can we expect to see Lord Glenny in uniform?
Never if I can help it. I think all this killing is senseless. Anyway, I have my tenants to look after.
They can look after themselves. Eh, Mother?
There are times, Michael, when I am very glad that you are not my son.
I don't care for this conversation. Neither you nor anyone else can get me into uniform, Nigel. Excuse me.
Jean, dear, you know what I want to ask you, don't you? Or will you?
Yes, please.
Before I go away?
Of course.
Oh, darling.
Are they married now?
No. Nigel went off to the wars, and he didn't come back until last year. He's been here ever since.
Really? How's that?
It happened soon after he'd started his disembarkation leave.
Nobody quite knows how it was caused. He went out riding before breakfast the same way as he did most days. He was a keen horseman, was Mr. Nigel, and when he'd been gone about half an hour, one of the crofters saw his horse running wild with no one in the saddle. He started searching for Mr. Nigel and found him in the woods in a pretty bad way. It seemed his leg was hurt, and he was almost unconscious with the pain. Then the villager arrived on the scene, and between them they got him onto a hurdle and carried him to the castle. Miss Jean saw them coming and ran down to see what was the trouble. Must have been a bad shock to the poor lassie to see the state he was in. Mr. Nigel tried his best to hide his pain. He was always a game one. And from that day onwards, Miss Jean was a real wonder to him. She nursed him back to health and tended him like a mother. With all the time, Michael trying to steal her away from Mr. Nigel.
And that's the position today. Nigel has not yet fully recovered, and Michael still refuses to join the army.
I see. But what's all this tale about the Phantom?
That's no tale. When Matthews was murdered, Bridie Anderson had just passed him at the top of the cliff. She swears that she saw a black figure looking over the cliff at the place where Matthews was found.
Later, she called in McWhirter, the local constable, and told him the whole story. It would take more than the story of a phantom to impress McWhirter, who listened without believing a word.
Oh, the girl's just imagining them, Mum. Who ever heard of a phantom appearing in the night and pushing people over cliffs? It doesn't make any sense at all.
I wouldn't be too sure about that, McWhirter.
Ah, and I wouldn't either. The wee men have been responsible for an awful lot, McWhirter.
Oh, the whole thing's imagination. You and your kelpies.
It's no such. I'd be careful with my tongue if I were you, McWhirter.
Me father once saw the phantom with his ain een.
Aye, on Burns night.
Oh.
I'd be careful with my tongue if I were you. They may be listening to you, McWhirter.
Who?
The wee men.
From then, things began to happen. Matthew's body was found by Michael Glennie at the foot of the cliffs where Brady had seen the phantom. The villagers began to get a superstitious dread and wouldn't venture out at night. Then Captain Fairfax disappeared.
I've not heard about that.
Captain Fairfax took over from Major Matthews. 2 days ago, Captain Fairfax had dinner up at the castle with Lady Glennie. Captain Fairfax was in high spirits. Nigel had begun to show an irritability which had affected him lately. He was nervous and ill at ease. Michael was his usual reserved self, while Jean tried to stop Nigel from being insulting to their guest. It seems Fairfax had been making some remarks about Nigel's continued incapacity. He'd been in the sick list 6 months now, when Nigel suddenly flared up.
How the devil can I get back with this infernal leg? It's all very well for you to talk. You asked Major Selwyn. I've been under him ever since the wretched accident started.
Nigel, don't fash yourself so. Captain Fairfax is only pulling your leg, aren't you, Captain?
Well, if you put it like that. Still, if you'll excuse me, it's already late and I must be getting back to camp. I've work to do.
I'll see you to the door, sir.
You must excuse me, too. I have a letter to write.
Good night.
Good night. Good night. Good night,
Good night. Good night. Mind the blackout.
That was the last time Captain Fairfax was seen. They're out searching for him now. In view of the death of Major Matthews, I'm afraid they only expect to find his body. Back at the castle, they were having a little trouble in the kitchen.
It's no good. I'm leaving, and I'm not coming back.
Oh, be
I'm
reasonable, woman. If there is a phantom, and there isna, it cannot harm you while you bide with me.
Well, I'm not so sure of that.
How can it? Besides, where would you go?
I could go to my married sister in Glasgow.
But didn't you tell me only last week she had no room for you? Be sensible, woman.
Well...
You can share my room. I didn't want to be left alone tonight. Ah, please.
All right, for your sake, Maggie, I will stay. But if your phantom appears again, I'm off. Ha!
And did it?
I'm coming to that. Lady Glennie and Nigel were discussing that painful subject, Nigel's leg.
I tell you, Mother, he knows what he's doing. Why, he's one of the most highly qualified men in the army.
Yes, Nigel, perhaps. But a second opinion cannot possibly do any harm. I want you to see another doctor. After all, it seems ridiculous that you should be laid up for 6 months just because of a leg.
I tell you no, Mother. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to shout at you, but Major Selwyn's been awfully good to me. I couldn't insult him now, you must see that. Yes, Maggie?
Beg pardon, milady. It's the rifle. Lord Glennie's rifle? Aye, milady. It's missing. I saw her to tell you at once. All right, Maggie. I'll look into it. Very good, milady. Goodness me. Whatever next?
Don't worry, it'll turn up. It's probably there all the time, you know, Maggie.
Yes, but once the story gets around, it'll start more of this phantom talk. We shall be losing all the servants if they get any more scared than they are already.
The whole village is certainly getting pretty het up about it. So many people have actually seen a figure, and their descriptions all tally. That's the amazing thing.
I have never heard such nonsense in my life.
I mean, you can't get away from the facts. Matthews killed, Fairfax missing, and now there's reports of a hooded figure coming from every side. There's more in it than meets the eye. But the only possible explanation is a supernatural one. Unless... Hello, Jean.
Well, I'll leave you two children together. I must go and hunt for that rifle before the whole place is thrown into a panic.
What about the rifle?
Maggie says it's missing. I expect that conscientious brother of mine, Michael's out shooting defenseless birds with it.
You know, I can't help feeling that a conscientious objector ought to be consistent about killing. I know Michael's your half-brother, but... Well, a lot of conscientious people have suffered for their beliefs. Some of them very fine people.
But the phone has dragged them all down to their level.
Yes, Maggie? Could I hear a word with you, miss? It's about Cook.
Well, I'll leave you before you start. See you later, Jean. I'm going to give Mother a hand finding that rifle.
Well, Maggie, what is it?
It's Lorna, miss. I wonder if you could speak to her. You see, it's this way.
Meanwhile, the search went ceaselessly on to find Captain Fairfax's body.
Aye, it's a bad thing. Aye. Aye.
Uh-huh.
Aye.
I'm no so keen on all this searching. I didn't used to believe in the phantom, but now, what with one man dead, and another maybe no alive.
Aye.
Aye. Hamish! Hamish! Come here! Look, man.
Where?
Over there by yon rock.
I can't see a thing.
Over there, man.
Where?
That's very funny. I could have swore he was there a moment ago.
Let's go and have a look.
Aye.
Aye, he was dead. Shot through the heart with a heavy caliber rifle.
You said just now that the rifle which belonged to Lord Glennie was missing.
Aye, I did. They don't know that it was the same rifle, but it looks mighty like it. But to continue. Last night, Lady Glennie had retired to bed and was just about to go to sleep when she heard a noise in the castle.
Nigel. Michael? Michael!
What's the matter, Mother?
Whoop.
Will you no stay?
It's no use. I will not, and that's that.
But Lorna...
No, Maggie. I've lived with some queer things in my life, but I've never lived with a phantom, and I don't intend to start now. Not for you or any other body.
I'll be missing you, Lorna.
I'll be missing you too, Maggie.
Goodbye, my dear.
And take care.
Maggie.
Yes, sir.
Maggie, I've been suddenly called away. I have to go to Nairn on business. It's possible I may not get back till the morning. Will you tell my mother?
Yes, sir. Oh, Miss Jean, I am glad to see you. And didn't I ken how to tell her ladyship the news?
What news, Meg?
Lorna, miss, she's gone. Gone? Ines left. She was that tieft of a phantom she's awa' to Glasgow. And now the laird's gone to Nairn and will no be back the night. I didn't ken how to tell her ladyship.
All right, Maggie, don't worry, I'll tell her. And that's that. But Maggie seemed to doubt it.
Stupid girl, Lorna. I've been expecting her to go for days. It's not going to be easy to replace her either.
No.
Jean, I wonder, would you do something for me?
Of course.
I wonder if you'd stay here the night, just while Michael's away. Do you mind?
Of course not. Don't be silly, I'd love to.
Oh, and tell the chauffeur to sleep in the castle instead of at the lodge. I'd feel a lot safer.
So would I. I'll tell him right away.
That afternoon, Maggie was preparing the tea when the front door bell rang with some insistence. Complaining bitterly that she'd only one pair of hands, Maggie answered the door. It was Major Selwyn, called to see Nigel, his patient. As I told you, the Major was a doctor.
I'm Major Selwyn. Please tell Captain Glennie I've called.
Will you be taking tea, sir?
Thank you, yes.
Very good, sir. Nigel? Who is it?
It's Major Selwyn, Mother. Do come down. I want you to meet him. I've always wanted you to meet my mother.
I, too.
Selwyn, this is my mother. Mother, Major Selwyn.
So we meet at last, Lady Glennie.
Why, what's the matter?
Major Selwyn bears such a striking resemblance to someone that I knew in the past.
It is always wiser to let the past bury its dead. Don't you agree, Lady Glennie?
Strange she never met him before.
Nay, there's stranger things than that to be explained.
You've done well. How did you discover all this?
I have my methods.
So they're all up at the castle now, with the exception of Michael, and he'll be back later.
That's correct.
I think I'd better go and pay him a visit.
Well, here's good luck to you.
Now, you know the signal. When you see it, get there as soon as possible.
Very good, sir.
Will you have another drink, Selwyn?
Thank you, Nigel. Seems to me we're in for a very dirty night, Lady Glennie.
There's a Captain Neil to see you, Mr. Nigel. What will I tell him?
Neil?
Uh-huh.
Neil? Oh, yes, I remember. Show him in, won't you, Maggie?
Aye.
Neil and I used to be in the same mess. He's attached to the War Office. Ah, Neil, good to see you. How are you? My mother, Miss Hamilton, Major Selwyn, Captain Neil.
How do you do?
Sit down, won't you, Neil?
Ah, thank you. I hope I haven't called an awkward hour. I won't keep you, but I've been sent up here on this Matthews business. As you were the last to see him alive, I thought perhaps you could help me.
What do you mean? Why should we be able to help you?
I beg your pardon, sir. I meant no offense, but Matthews apparently dined here on the night he died, so I wondered if perhaps...
In other words, sir, you used your acquaintance with Nigel to get in here and behave like a blasted detective. If I were Lady Glennie, I'd throw you out.
I beg your pardon. Perhaps I'd better go.
But, Neil, I'm sure we...
That's all right, Nigel. Perhaps we can meet at the local sometime.
I'd like that.
I'll give you a ring.
Please do. I'm sorry that,
That's all right. Good night, Lady Glennie, Miss Hamilton. Good night, Major.
I'm sure he meant no harm, Major. You and Jean go into dinner. I will join you in a moment.
Something wrong with your telephone? So we're marooned in the haunted castle. How exciting, isn't it?
Selwyn, quick, it's her heart. Help me get her to bed.
Are you sure you'll be all right now?
Please don't worry about me.
If Lady Glennie rests quietly, she'll be quite herself in the morning.
Come, Mother, you must.
I don't need it.
You need sleep. This will help you.
I'll take it later.
Very well. But remember, I'm a medical man. I prescribe only what I know to be beneficial to you.
Good night, Mother.
Should you require anything further, I shall be at your service. I am a light sleeper, Lady Glennie.
Stand where you are, or I fire. And whoever you are, take off that stupid disguise. I know you, Selwyn. Do as I say.
I don't think so, Lady Glennie. Quick, close the curtains and put the light on. It's unfortunate for you that you should choose to prowl at this hour.
What do you want here? What have you done with Nigel and Maggie? Who is this man?
Shall we call him the Phantom and let it go at that?
No, Carl.
Carl, my dear Gabrielle. I suppose I can call you that since you insist on renewing our old acquaintance. I saw that you recognized me and would quickly have informed the authorities that Major Martin Selwyn, RAMC, was none other than Baron Carl von Reich. But I forestalled you by seeing that your telephone was temporarily out of order. Many years spent in the rather trying task of impersonating your late countryman, Martin Selwyn, has made me extremely careful of detail. Get the cords from the other window. It's all right, I'm not going to hurt the lady. And you, sit down. Now, tie her up. It's hardly necessary for me to point out, Gabrielle, that should you decide to be uncooperative, I could very easily...
Yes, the murder of the defenseless has always been a Teuton trait, isn't it?
You weren't always so bitter towards my country, Gabrielle.
That was a long time ago.
I have a long memory, my dear Gabrielle, and a most pleasant one.
Swine.
You're an intelligent woman, Gabrielle. That is unfortunate for you, as your presence here complicates matters for me. I could very easily find a solution to the difficulty, but certain rather pleasant memories render the solution distasteful to me. So I shall resort to another method of ensuring your silence. Come here, please.
Nigel.
It's no use. We must wait for the signal.
Yes, my dear, the son of your first marriage. Our son.
Our son?
Yes, my dear Nigel, you didn't know that I was your father.
Mother, is this true?
Unfortunately, I was married to this devil before I married Lord Glennie.
And this man?
Is your father.
You see, my dear Gabrielle, if you force me to leave here before my work is complete, our son will be shot as a spy.
You're lying.
I assure you, Gabrielle, when you know the full story of his activities, you'll not only believe me, you'll...
Nigel, is this true?
You see, my dear, he's a coward with a strong distaste for fighting. When I first saw him after his horse had thrown him, he was delirious. It wasn't long before I realized we were very useful to each other.
Mother, please, I couldn't help myself.
No, I was to blame. You could not know that the blood of this swine was in your veins.
Mother, you don't know, you don't understand. I couldn't face the firing line again. He said if I pretended to limp, he'd do the rest. Seemed so easy, so simple. Oh, Mother, help me, please.
There's the aircraft now. Put out that light. Do as I say.
No.
Put out that light.
I'm damned if I do. From now on, you're on your own, Selwyn.
Put it out, you little rat. Switch on again. Now the plans. I've no time to lose. Hand over those plans. Do as I say.
Nigel, don't!
Shut your mouth, woman. 1 step near the fire and I shoot. Hand over those plans.
Nigel.
Drop that gun or I fire.
Sorry, Mike. Afraid I took the easy way out. Always was a weak.
Not in the long run, Midge. That's what counts.
Thanks, Mike. Please, please, don't tell them.
I won't. Let me do the talking, you understand.
We got the plane. He tried to land in the grounds and failed. The pilot was dead.
You know who he was?
No identity papers, nothing.
So Selwyn's secret dies with him.
We still find out why he was here tonight. I shall have to ask Lady Glennie about that. I'm sorry, but she's the only person who can tell us.
Lady Glennie's too ill to answer questions. I can answer for her. It would have been too risky to signal from the open hillside, but a light from those windows shows straight out to sea. So Selwyn contrived an invitation to stay here.
But the shooting, what led up to that?
People disturbed Selwyn skulking in the room below. He bound her and pushed her into a cupboard. She shrieked and disturbed my mother. You saw how they found her.
And Nigel?
He was aroused too, but being lame he could only go slowly. Apparently he got down in time to see Selwyn signal the plane.
But why did the plane come? What did the pilot hope to take away?
Selwyn was to send plans of certain of our defences back to Germany.
Plans? There was nothing on Selwyn's body.
As my brother fell, they dropped into the fire.
Where were the papers when your brother came in? How did he come to have them?
Selwyn had them. He and Nigel fought over them.
Then Nigel knew what the papers were.
No, how should he?
You say he fought Selwyn for them. You ask me to believe that one of Germany's best marksmen would let him seize the papers and burn them before he fired? I'm sorry, but we know Selwyn had an accomplice, and all the evidence seems to point to Nigel.
You can't say that, Neil. There's no proof.
Then why did he die wearing the garb of a monk? I'm sorry, but...
All right. I might as well tell you. I'll be through with intelligence anyway.
Through with intelligence?
When I joined, I took the oath of silence. Well, I broke it. I told my brother about MI5. I told him we were after von Reiten.
But why?
Because I needed a good line on von Reiten, and my brother knew him well. He was thrilled at the thought of helping. I bought the monk's robe, and he wore it to keep a watching brief on von Reiten at night. If the villagers saw him, the old phantom legend covered his tracks. He posed to von Reiten as a Nazi sympathizer. That's how I came to handle the plans. He did the dangerous job and paid the price. I was supposed to take the credit. So this is where you drum me out of the service, I'm afraid.
You've done good work for us in the past, without your brother's help. I accept your first explanation.
But I don't.
What I think doesn't matter. I'd have done the same thing in your shoes. Headquarters will record that Nigel met his death capturing an enemy agent.
Thank you.
You have great cause to be proud, not only of one, but of both your sons, Lady Glennie. You're a good fellow, Michael.
Michael, what can I say to you?
Nothing. Nigel's honor was at stake. I had to defend it. In life, loyalty to kith and kin. In death, loyalty to king and country. That has been the motto of the Glennies for centuries past. Loyalty to kith and kin. That belongs to me. Loyalty to king and country. That belongs to my brother.
Nigel. My poor little Nigel.
Hush, Mother. He's all right now. Because my father loved you, it was his wish that your son should bear his name. Tonight he earned the right to it. At the end, he died for us, Mother.
Yes, it was for us at the end, wasn't it?